Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Lake Dallas Falcons' second home game of the 2019-2020 season against Frisco Independence. The girls are warming up as of right now, and it should start the Star Spangled Banner in about 5 minutes. So we will start gameplay in about 10 minutes. Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Lake Dallas Falcons second home game of the season 2019-2020. The girls are about to line up for a name call, and we will resume play in just a minute.
Congratulations, Coach Holbrook, and on to your next 100. The roster for the visiting Independence Knights. Number 1, Sarah Breed. Number 2, Abby Watts. Number 3, Claire Wayne. Number 4, Ray Paloma. Number 6, Georgia Byatt. Number 7, Julia Orlowski. Number 8, Chandler Williams. Number 10, Emma Simpson. Number 11, Audrey Springfield. Number 12, Jess Griffin. Number 13, Cecily Orr. Number 14, Kat Bloomer. Number 15, Haley Herbert. Number 17, Savannah Moody. And number 18, Hayden Hicks. The Independence Knights are coached by head coach Sean Foster and assisted by Kimberly Mays, Sarah Anderson, and Stephanie Cameron.
As the girls come out of their lineup checks, it looks like Frisco Independence will start with the ball. Caitlin Gunn picks up the serve from Frisco. Macy Banks hitting on the outside of that line. That'll be a point for Lake Dallas with Ruthie Forson headed back to the line to serve.
Back to serve, number 14, Ruthie Forson.
And Frisco is unable to pick up the serve from Forson, so she will head back to the line to serve. Score 2-0 Lake Dallas. Forson's serve is picked up by Frisco and dumped by their setter. Frisco Independence hitting that back line, and Karen Melva is not able to pick it up. They will have the ball on their service line, 2-1. And Collier will just barely pick up that serve, with Lake Dallas free balling it over to Frisco. Macy Banks with the spike. That'll be another point for Lake Dallas, 3-1. What a great connection between Forson and Banks in the middle. Collier headed back to the line to serve. Serve is picked up by Frisco. Frisco's ball on their line to serve, 3-2. Serve is picked up by Collier with a short hit by Gunn. Collier will take the assist to Gunn in the outside. It will be just out. Score all tied up, 3-3, with Frisco headed back to the line to serve. Ball is picked up by Melvin in the back row and free balled over to Frisco. Great touch by Banks and Gunn on the block. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, 4-3. With Griffin in for Melvin and Banks at the back line to serve. Great dig by Forson out of the right back to Shantz, not quite getting it over the net. It will be 4-4 with Frisco headed back to the line to serve. Service picked up by Gunn to Gunn in the middle. Great connection between Forson and Gunn out of the middle. Her niece in for Shantz and headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Score 5-4. Service picked up by Frisco. Just barely hits that back corner on Lake Dallas' side. It'll be Frisco's ball, 5-5, a tie game. Karen Melvin unable to pick up the short serve. It'll be Frisco's ball once again. Scores 6-5. Frisco now leading Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Collier with a tight pass to Forson. Using Gunn in the outlet, a great spike in the middle of the back row. It'll be Lake Dallas's ball, 6-6, all tied up with Gunn headed back to the line to serve.
Number 11, Kaylee Gunn, back to serve. Side out, nice. Number 14.
Gunn not able to get to that spike, but with Frisco Independence, they'll head back to their line to serve. Score 7-6. Frisco now leading Lake Dallas. Collier picks up the short serve. Ball will be out on Lake Dallas' side. It'll be their point, all tied up once again, 7-7. With Griffin headed back to the line to serve. Serve is picked up by Frisco. Great dig by Griffin out of the right back to Collier in the outlet and just quite out on Frisco's side. It'll be 8-7. Frisco now leading Service picked up by Gunn to the outlet. Collier. Great hit in the middle of Frisco's block. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, a tie game 8-8 with Shantz back in for her niece and Forsen headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Frisco Independence and tipped right over to the block. Lake Dallas not quite able to get to it. It will be Frisco's ball, now leading Lake Dallas 9-8. Service picked up by Collier. And to Collier out of the right side. Great line shot on Frisco's side. Lake Dallas will gain the point. It will be 9-9 with Collier headed back to the line to serve. Melvin back in for Griffin to play back row. Collier's serve is not over the net. It will be Frisco's ball, scored 10-9. Frisco now leading Lake Dallas. The service picked up by Collier to Banks. Great height on that jump. With the assist by Collier to Shantz. Bounces off of Frisco's block. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, 10-10, all tied up with Banks headed back to the line to serve. And Griffin in for Melvin on the front row. Banks' service picked up by Frisco. Great pass to Forsen out of the middle. To Shantz attempting the quick pass, not quite getting to it, hitting it out on Frisco's side. It will be 11-10 with Frisco headed back to their line to serve. Service picked up by Melvin out of the back row. To Gunn the outlet. Return to Lake Dallas with Sloan on the front row. The tip is picked up by Forsen to Gunn in the outlet. Lake Dallas using the free ball to Shantz in the right side. It will be just out. Frisco's ball 12-10 leading. The service picked up by Collier in the back row to Gunn the outlet. Frisco's hit just bounces over the block on Lake Dallas' side. It'll be Frisco's ball 13-10 with Holbrooks taking the first time out of the game. All right, the girls are out of timeout with Frisco serving. Score still 13-10 coming out of the timeout. Service picked up by Melvin with a great pass to Forsen. To Gunn in the outlet is picked up by Frisco. Great pass by Forsen in the right back. Just barely tipped off of Collier's hand. It'll be Frisco's point, 14-10. Service picked up by Melvin and battled on the net, forcing Frisco Independence to free ball. To Gunn in the outlet. Lake Dallas unable to pick up the tip off of Frisco's block. It will be their ball, 15-10. With Banks in for Melvin in the back row. Gunn the outlet. Off of Frisco's ball, and it will be out. It will be Lake Dallas's point, 11-15. With her niece headed into the game and back to serve. Ball is picked up by Frisco Independence. Her niece unable to fill that spot and will let the tip drop. It will be Frisco's ball, 16-11. Ball is picked up by Collier with a tight pass to Forson. To Gunn the outlet, and she puts it down on Frisco's side. It will be 16-12. Frisco still leading Lake Dallas, but Lake Dallas trailing, with Gunn headed back to the line to serve. Gunn's serve is just barely picked up by Frisco Independence. To Collier, that outlet off of Frisco's block. It will be Lake Dallas's point, 16-13. Lake Dallas trailing Frisco Independence with Gunn on the line to serve. Gunn's serve is in the net. It will be Frisco's Independence point. Score 17-13. Service picked up by Gunn to Forson. To Collier in the outlet. Hit is picked up by Macy Banks. And ref calls a double on Lake Dallas. That will be Frisco Independence point. Score 18-13. Service picked up by Banks with a beautiful pass to Forson. Calls another double on Forson. Frisco's point, 19-13. Lake Dallas will need to stop this run with all these errors if they hope to catch up to Frisco Independence before the game is over. To Griffin, off of Frisco Independence's block, but falls on their side. Score 20-13 with Frisco Independence still serving. Holbrooks calls her second time out of the game. All right, the girls are headed back out of the timeout with Frisco Independence serving, score 20-13. Serve is shanked by Banks and serve receive. Frisco Independence leading Lake Dallas 21-13. Service picked up by Gunn and tipped by Forson, picked up by Frisco Independence. Another tip by Forsen, just barely picked up by Frisco. Collier in the outlet. Her hit will be out, and Frisco Independence will continue to serve. Score 22-13. Service picked up by Gunn to Collier in the outlet, and just barely picked off of Frisco's block. Ball still falls on Lake Dallas' side. Frisco Independence still leading 23-13 with Holbrooks not having any timeouts left. Service picked up by Gunn to Collier in the outlet, just barely off of Frisco Independence's block. Ball will land on Lake Dallas' side. Score 24-13, game point for Frisco Independence. Service picked up by Banks just barely and tipped over the net by Gunn. And off of Griffin and Forsen's block, it'll be Frisco Independence taking the first game away from Lake Dallas at home. All right, the beginning of set 2 with Forson at the back line to serve. Lake Dallas starting with the ball this time. Service picked up by Frisco Independence. Great dig by Forson in the right back to Collier, the outlet. Banks showing some aggression at the net. It will be Lake Dallas's point, leading 1-0 with Forson heading back to the line to serve. Service picked up by Independence. Gunn just barely getting a hand on it, but not able to get all the way to it. It will be 1-1, all tied up with Frisco Independence going back to their line to serve. Service picked up by Collier. Back to Collier in the right front. With Maddie Hernice with a great dig to Collier in the outlet. Collier headed back to the line to serve. Lake Dallas leading 2-1. Service picked up by Frisco Independence and tipped just over Banks's block. Banks attempting to get a hand on it, but hits it out. It will be Frisco's ball, 2-2. Service picked up by Gunn to Banks. Banks just tipping it right over Frisco's block. Gains the point for Lake Dallas. Griffin going in for her niece with Banks headed back to the line to serve. Ball just barely picked up by Frisco Independence. Tipped off of Griffin and Chance's block to Gunn in the outlet. Banks is headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas, 4-2. Ball is picked up by Frisco Independence. Bounces off of Griffin and Chance's block to Gunn in the outlet. Just barely picked up by Frisco Independence. And ref calls them out. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, 5-2, leading with Banks headed back to the line to serve once again. Banks' service picked up by Frisco Independence, with Collier defending the hit. Little free ball confusion on Frisco Independence's side, with Lake Dallas gaining the point, 6-2. Banks headed back to the line to serve. Banks' service picked up by Frisco Independence. And put down on Lake Dallas' side, it will be Frisco's ball, 6-3. Looks like Lake Dallas' back row was just a little bit too short to defend that hit. Service picked up by Collier to Chance out of the right front. With Frisco Independence not making it over the net, it will be Lake Dallas's ball, 7-3, with Chance headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Independence. With a touch by Collier, although the ball was out, it will be Frisco's ball, 7-4, with Melvin in for Chance in the back row. Lake Dallas still leading Frisco Independence. Ball is picked up by Melvin in the back row to Gunn the outlet. Just barely picked up by Frisco Independence. Macy Banks unable to get to that deep corner ball shot by Frisco Independence. It will be their ball once again. Lake Dallas still leading, but Frisco Independence trailing 7-5. Ball just barely picked up by Collier as Forson battles at the net. Off a Gunn's block. Collier struggles and is unable to get over the net. It will be Frisco Independence's ball, 7-6. Trailing Lake Dallas just by 1 point. Ball's picked up by Melvin to Gunn the outlet. Gunn getting it right in between Frisco Independence's block to fall nice and neat in the middle of the back row. She'll head back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas as Lake Dallas is leading 8-6. Gunn's ball is picked up by Frisco Independence and is hit in between Collier and Griffin's block. Frisco Independence will be serving Lake Dallas, trailing by 1, 8-7. Ball's picked up by Kaylin Gunn to Collier, the outlet. Tips it and hits the antenna, which is considered out. Score will be all tied up 8-8 with Frisco Independence serving. Service picked up by Melvin in the back court. To Gunn, hitting a single block on Frisco Independence's side, falls on Lake Dallas's court. Score is 8-9, with Frisco Independence now leading Lake Dallas and Holbrook's taking her first timeout of the set. The girls return the court as Frisco Independence is serving 9-8. Service picked up by Gunn to Collier, the outlet. Great attempt by Melvin in the right back, but unable to pick it up. It will be Frisco Independence's ball, leading 10-8. Ball's picked up by Gunn, but free-balled over to Frisco. Frisco's tip falls just behind Collier's block with Gunn unable to reach it. Score will be 11-8 with Frisco leading Lake Dallas. Ball once again picked up by Gunn and serve receive to Collier, the outlet. Melvin will pick up the free ball to Collier. Attempts to tip it over with Frisco's block just waiting for her. It'll be their point with them serving 12-8. Service picked up by Gunn to Griffin. Great tip. Picked up by Frisco Independence. Forson sets Collier on the outside, picked up by Frisco Independence. Sets Collier once again, a short pass this time. Lake Dallas unable to battle out that rally. It will be 13-8 for Frisco Independence as they serve the ball to Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Gunn to Griffin on the right side, off of Frisco's block, tipped back over by Griffin. Ball will be out on Lake Dallas' side. It will be their point, score 13-9 with Lake Dallas trailing. Maddie Hernice in for Slow Griffin and headed back to the line to serve. Calls out of rotation on Lake Dallas' side as the ball is served. It'll be Frisco's point. Score 14-9 with Lake Dallas trailing. Service picked up by Gunn. Second shot over by Forson. Great attempt. Great up by Maddie Hernice. To Macy Banks with the short pass. Just barely picked up by Frisco Independence. Both teams very much battling here. To Collier right into Frisco Independence's block. It'll land on Lake Dallas' side. Score 15-9. Collier has to figure out a way to get around Frisco's block as they're picking up a big one in the rest of this set. Passes on tight on the net with Forson not able to get it over. It will be Frisco's point, 16-9, with Holbrooks taking the second timeout of the set. Both teams are out of the timeout, and Frisco Independence is prepared to serve to Lake Dallas. Score 16-9 coming out. Service picked up by Melvin, but tight on the net for Forson. Not able to get to it. Score 17-9. Frisco Independence leading Lake Dallas. Service just barely picked up by Maddie Hernice in the back row. And free balled over to Frisco's side. Frisco's hit will be out on Lake Dallas' side with them gaining the point. Score 17-10. Sean's in for Melvin on the front row with Forson headed back to the line to serve. Service picked up by Frisco Independence. And tipped out, attempting to hit that spot behind Collier's block, but not quite getting it. It'll be Lake Dallas' ball, 17-11, with Forson heading back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Frisco. Gunn unable to get up that hit by Frisco Independence. It'll be their ball, 18-11. Service picked up by Collier, but over the net as Frisco Independence's block gets their hands on it. Ball falls on Lake Dallas' side. Score 19-11 with Frisco Independence serving Lake Dallas. Sean's unable to pick up the serve. Score 20-11. Maddie Hernice picks up the ball. to Banks in the middle. Great tip just over the block for Banks. Scored 20-12 with Collier headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Frisco Independence. And hits just on the back line on Lake Dallas' side, with Frisco Independence serving Lake Dallas 21-12. Service picked up by Gunn to Banks, jumping just a little bit early there. To Gunn in the outlet. Great hit by Gunn, but Frisco was ready for that on the line. Gunn will go up again. And hits just in between Frisco Independence's block right on the line. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, with Griffin in for Maddie Hernice on the front row. And Banks headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Frisco Independence, but tight on the net. Ref calls penalty on Frisco Independence. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, with Macy Banks headed back to the line to serve 21-14. Short serve is picked up by Frisco Independence to their outlet, just off of Griffin's block. Barely picked up by Forson, but they get it over the net to Frisco Independence. Great attempt by Kaylin Gunn, and off of Frisco Independence's block, it lands out on Lake Dallas' side. Their point once again, 21-15. Lake Dallas trailing Frisco Independence. Banks' service picked up by Frisco Independence, and not over the net. It will once again be Lake Dallas' ball, 21-16. Once again, Banks serving. Picked up but tight on the net by Frisco. And Forson's push will be out on Frisco's side. Frisco will be serving Lake Dallas 22-16. Service picked up by Gunn to Gunn in the outlet, just off of Frisco's block. Lands in on Frisco's side. It will be 22-17 with Lake Dallas trailing Frisco Independence. Chance headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Frisco Independence. Ref calls double on Frisco Independence's setter. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, 22-18, with Frisco calling their first timeout of the set. Coming out of the timeout will be Shant serving for Lake Dallas, scored 22-18 with Lake Dallas trailing Frisco Independence. Ball picked up by Banks in the back row to Gunn the outlet. Ball will be down on Frisco's side by a great spike by Kaylin Gunn. Shant's headed back to the line to serve, 22-19, Lake Dallas trailing Frisco. Service picked up by Frisco. to Banks in the back row. Free balled over to Frisco's side. Tip is picked up by Banks in the back row and returned to Frisco. Another ball down on Frisco's side by Kaylin Gunn, just off of Frisco's block. With Shantz headed back to the line to serve, 22-20, Lake Dallas trailing. Service picked up by Frisco. Picked up by Macy Banks in the back row. Kaylin Gunn not able to get that tip over the net, and Frisco Independence will block it. Now serving 23-20 Frisco to Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Collier, but in the net. With Forson unable to pick it up. It'll be game point for Frisco Independence, 24-20. Service picked up by Collier to Gunn on the outlet. Ball be out on Lake Dallas' side, score 24-21 with Gunn headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Frisco Independence. Great dig by Gunn to Collier, the outlet. Frisco Independence's roll shot will be just out on Lake Dallas' side with Gunn headed back to the line to serve, 24-22. Service picked up by Frisco. And picked up by Banks in the back row. Forson to Collier. Collier's block just barely gets a touch on that ball, but it falls on Lake Dallas' side, 25-22. Frisco takes another set by Lake Dallas. If you haven't already, please follow us on all of our social media. Follow the LD Volleyball Twitter at LD Volleyball. Subscribe to this YouTube page to get updates on when we go live. And click the little bell icon to get notifications on when we do go live. Like the Facebook page, Lake Dallas HS Volleyball Live Podcast on more updates. Both teams return to the court for a lineup check. Starting for Lake Dallas, Maddie Hernice, Kaylin Gunn, Ruthie Forson, Candace Collier, Macy Banks, Lainey Shantz. Frisco Independence will serve first in this set. Collier picking up the serve just barely. Free balling it over to Frisco's side. The dump is not picked up by Lake Dallas. It will be Frisco's point, 1-0, leading Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Gunn. To Banks in the outside. Picked up by Shanson right front. Tipped by Banks, picked up by Frisco Independence with an impossible pancake. Hit is picked up by Gunn. To Banks in the middle. It'll be Lake Dallas's point with Collier headed back to the line to serve 1-1, all tied up with Frisco Independence. Collier's serve is in the net. It will be Frisco Independence's point, 2-1. Ball's picked up by Collier to Banks off of Frisco's block. Dug up by Ruthie Forson, then the right back. And free balled over to Frisco Independence. Independence's hit falls just in between Shantz and Banks' block. It'll be their point score, 3-1, Lake Dallas trailing. Service picked up by Hernice in the back row. Off of Shanson, Banks' block to Gunn the outlet and shanked by Independence. It'll be Lake Dallas's ball, score 3-2, Lake Dallas trailing. Griffin subbing in for Hernice for the front row and Banks serving. Service picked up by Frisco Independence off of Shantz's block. Over by Kaylin Gunn. And after battling at the Lake Dallas unable to pick it up. It'll be Frisco Independence's ball, 4-2. Short service picked up just barely by Candace Collier. And Shantz's hit will be out on Frisco Independence's side. Score 5-2 with Lake Dallas trailing. Service picked up by Collier with Forson unable to chase it down. It'll be Frisco Independence's ball once again, 6-2. With Mars in for Candace Collier for serve receive as well as back row. Service picked up by Mars in the back row. To Gunn the outlet.
Side out Lake Dallas.
Puts it down on Frisco Independence's side. Scores 6-3 with Lake Dallas trailing, and Sean's headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Sean's gets an ace on Frisco Independence, gaining the point for Lake Dallas. Scores 6-4 with Lake Dallas still trailing Frisco Independence. Great serve once again by Sean's, picked up by Frisco Independence. Tight on the net with Ruthie Forson unable to get it over. It will be Frisco Independence's ball. Score 7-4 with Lake Dallas still trailing. With Karen Melvin into the game. To Gunn on the outlet. Great hit on the back line on Frisco Independence's side. It will be Lake Dallas's balls trailing Independence 7-5. With Kaylin Gunn headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Gun serve is in the net. It will be Independence's ball. Score 8-5. Serve is picked up by Melvin. To Collier on the outside, not quite over the net. It will be Frisco's ball, 9-5. Frisco Independence gets an ace on Lake Dallas, scored 10-5 with Holbrooks taking the first time out of the set. Frisco Independence serving Lake Dallas coming out of the timeout, scored 10-5. Griffin on the right side is picked up by Frisco Independence. Great up by Kaylin Gunn with the assist by Ruthie Forson. Off of Frisco Independence's block, to Collier tips it short, picked up by Frisco. Hits back line on Lake Dallas's side, Frisco's ball, 11-5.
Play the ball, LD, let's go!
Ball is picked up by Gunn to Collier, the outlet. Off of Lake Dallas's block. To Collier once again. Great line shot by Collier, put down on Frisco Independence's side, score 11-6. Pernice in for Griffin, headed back to the line to serve. Both teams not hitting a lot of crossballs here, mostly line shots and in between the blocks. Another line shot by Frisco Independence. Scored 12-6. If I was Lake Dallas's defense, I'd be shifting a little bit more to be sitting on that line because there's not a lot of cut shots coming out of Frisco Independence. They mostly want to turn it. Picked up by Lake Dallas. Another line shot, this time coming out of the right side by Frisco Independence. Score 13-6 with Frisco serving Lake Dallas. Ball is out on Lake Dallas' side. Lake Dallas' point 13-7. Shots in for Melvin on the front row with Forson headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Ball is off of Banks and Chance's block. Great block by Banks and Collier. Tipped right over the block with a great shoot by Forson on Frisco's side. Frisco with the cut shot just barely lands inside of Lake Dallas' side. Score 14-7 with Frisco Independent serving Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Collier to Banks. Great up by Gunn. Hit will be in on Frisco's side, just barely missing Frisco Independence's head coach. Score 14-8 with Collier headed back to the line to serve. Service just barely picked up by Frisco Independence and gets caught in Gunn's block. It'll be Frisco's ball 15-8. Service picked up by Gunn, but tight on the net for Forson. Ref calls Forson as a back row attacker. It'll be Frisco Independence's ball, 16-8. Service picked up once again by Kaylin Gunn. And in between the block, but is picked up by Candace Collier. With another line shot out of Frisco Independence. If I was Maddie Hernice, I'd be sitting on that line waiting for that shot. And Holbrooks takes another timeout, scores 17-8. Frisco Independence leading. Both teams are out of timeout, and that is Holbrook's last timeout of the set. Frisco Independent serving Lake Dallas, scores 17-8. Service picked up by Gunn to Gunn in the outlet.
Side out Lake Dallas. Point, LD.
Lake Dallas's point. As Frisco Independence is caught in the net, Griffin will go in for her niece with Macy Banks on the back line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up tight on Frisco's side. To Gunn the outlet. Just barely picked up by Frisco. It'll be Lake Dallas's ball with Frisco getting caught on the net once again. Scores 17-10. With Banks headed back to the line to serve. And Collier doing cleanup duty. Banks' serve is picked up by Frisco Independence. Great up by Macy Banks in the back row. To Gunn in the outlet. Dump is picked up by Forson. To Gunn once again. Gunn manages to hit in between Frisco Independence's block, landing once again right in between two defenders on Frisco Independence's side. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, 17-11. Banks serving. Strong middle hit is unable to be picked up by Candace Collier. It will be Frisco Independence's ball, score 18-11. Service picked up by Kaylin Gunn. Kaylin Gunn off of the blocker's hands, lands on Frisco Independence's side. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, 18-12. With Lexi Smith in for Lainey Shantz going back to the line to serve. Service picked up by Frisco Independence. And tipped just over the block with Lexi Smith unable to get to it. It'll be Frisco's ball, 19-12. Short ball is picked up by Banks, but in the net. It'll be Frisco's ball, once again serving 20-12. Frisco 5 points away from taking the whole match away from Lake Dallas. Frisco's short ball just barely doesn't make it over the net. It'll be Lake Dallas's ball to serve, score 20-13. With Gunn headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Service picked up by Frisco Independence, tied on the net. It'll be Lake Dallas's point as Frisco gets called for a double. Kaylin Gunn once again back on the line to serve. Service picked up by Frisco. And caught in Collier and Griffin's block. It'll be Frisco's point, 21-14. Ball's picked up by Kaylin Gunn to Candace Collier in the outlet. Hit just in between the block, but picked up by Macy Banks. Just off the block again. Once again picked up by Macy Banks. Collier tips on Frisco's side, and it will fall. Lake Dallas's ball. Scored 21-15. Maddie Hernice back in for Sloan Griffin. Headed back to the line to serve. Service picked up by Frisco Independence, tight in the net. Ref will call a legal tacker on Frisco Independence. Lake Dallas's ball with Hernice serving once again. Score 21-16. Hit is picked up by Smith. Tied on the net for Frisco Independence. Falls just over Banks and Forson's block. It'll be Frisco's ball, 22-16. Ball's picked up by Hernice to Collier in the outside. Collier's hit appears to be out, where the line judge is calling it out, no touch, and the up ref is calling it a touch. But it looks like he's going to give it to Frisco Independence, saying no one touched Collier's ball. That was out. And Frisco will be serving 23-16, just 2 points away from taking this whole match from Lake Dallas at home. Down ball over by Kaylin Gunn. Great tip by Forson just over the block. It will be Lake Dallas's ball, 23-16 with Lake Dallas trailing. Shots back in the front row for Smith with Forson headed back to the line to serve for Lake Dallas. Serve is shanked by Frisco Independence. That will be an ace for Forson. Scored 23-18. Forson still serving. Service picked up by Frisco Independence. And although a triple block on Lake Dallas' side, Frisco hits it over the block. Score 24-18. Game point for Frisco Independence. And Frisco Independence will take the game away from Lake Dallas. Final score 25-18, with Frisco Independence taking all 3 first sets from Lake Dallas. Our next game will once again be 6:30, coming live from Lake Dallas High School against Louisville High School. So be sure to tune in a little bit before, and I'll see y'all next time.